Alright, so we're using the current day open, high, low. And we're only interested in the high and low. So I'm going to turn the open plot off. We'll set that to transparent. And let's make this a little thicker. We can see this a little easier. Alright, let's take a look. Alright, this looks like a couple of good places here to work with. It looks like, we got a test right there, and another test there, and of course, we had another test there. So let's pull the instructions up over here. Yeah. There we go. Alright. So there we go. We got a couple of spots right there marked for us. And let's see. So, well, we got a down day in oil, don't we? Let's see. Wow, oil sure did get up there. So, I'm going to see if there's any other possible signals coming from this. There we go. Basically, okay, according to these rules here, every time the indicator makes basically anytime price makes a new low for the day, we're definitely going to get a trade signal. Right, so because we're, in other words, so to go long, whenever price comes within 4 ticks of the day's previous low, then that's a signal. So of course, whenever a new low is made, well, that's going to trigger a signal, because price obviously came within 4 ticks of the previous low in order to go lower. So yeah, so we're going to get lots of signals here. So let me just focus in on this right here. All right, we'll focus in on this part right here. Let's get BloodHound back open. And let's go to our Logic tab. And let's make a new Logic template here. And what should we call this? Let's see here. Alright, near previous day's high or low. Okay, so first thing we need to do is we need to detect when price comes within 4 ticks of the previous high or low, and that can be done by using a comparison solver. And so we can see both of these candles would qualify because they're within 4 ticks of the previous low, right? So, NinjaTrader's indicator here, this current day open, high, low, this is tracking, right, the current, or in our case, what would be the previous low or high. All right, so what happens is we get a low, a new low made, and then, you know, price moves up, away, bounces off eventually, and then comes back down, right? And so that's kind of what we're looking for here. So we're going to use the current day open, high, low indicator to track, you know, we're going to use it to track, you know, that new low that's made. And then we'll check a couple of bars, you know, to see that, you know, price kind of moved away from it, and then we'll detect when price gets within 4 ticks of the low or the high again. Right? So let's kind of build the core comparison solver that's going to check when price gets within 4 ticks here. So, all right, let's grab a comparison solver. There we go. Connect that in. All right, so price within 4 ticks of the day high low. So, all right, that sounds good enough for a name for me. And I guess I better move this over here. Now I can open up BloodHound a little more. Okay, so we're going to check price, see if price, right? So let's look at, we'll look at price, and let's see. So in this case, we need specific prices. So, right, when price is coming down to the low of the day, we need to be looking at the low of the bar. We need to see, is the low of the bar within 4 ticks of our indicator? And then, you know, for a bounce off the high, we need to check to see, you know, is the high price within 4 ticks of our indicator, right? So remember, this is actually, we're looking for an actual long signal here. So we're looking for a bounce off of the low, so we want to generate a long signal here. All right, so we want to generate a long signal here. So let's turn this green. There we go. All right, we're looking for a long signal here. So for a long signal, we're going to use the low price. So when the low price gets close to the indicator plot, that'll generate a long signal. And then for a short signal, we're going to use the high price. All right. Next, we need to put our indicator in input B. All right, there's the current day open, high, low, and we're using the current low to generate long signals because it's looking for a bounce off the low, and we're using the current high to look for bounces off of the current high for a short signal. All right, bounces off the low for a long signal, bounces off the high for a short signal. There we go. And let's pull this back up, and I'll make this chart a little shorter. There we go. And now let's check our outputs. Well, actually first, let's put in our 4-tick distance requirement. Here we go. Okay, so now for a long, let's see, let's open this up here a little bit. Let's see, is for a long, let's see, A for a long is the low. Yeah, the low will be greater than the indicator by 4 ticks or more. Actually, we want to detect the opposite. Yeah. So actually, we want to reverse our outputs here. So actually, essentially, we can just use the A equals B again here, right? So we can just use the A equals B again, just like that. All right. Okay. So here we have got some signals set up, and we notice that really we only get a couple of bars here that couple of bars where price moved away more than 4 ticks. All these bars, the low is within 4 ticks. So we're not really getting any bounces, or at least very high bounces. Wow, let me kind of check through this here. Here's kind of another area we can look at. Let me make an adjustment here. Alright, so let's kind of regroup here. So here we go. So here's a couple of bars that came within 4 ticks of the low. There we go. Alright, so we got our little bounce up, and then we got to retest back down, and then we got to bounce back up. Okay, so we got an area to work in here, and let's see. You know, it almost looks like basically that would be it, because this is the only description I got here. Let's see. Okay. So here's some other qualifications here. All right, so we're going to take the second retest. Let's see. All right, but on the third retest, we want to stand aside. So all right, so this is kind of add that in there. All right, so let's we'll add that to the system here. Let's see here. All right, so let's eliminate this right here. So if a new low is being made, we'll eliminate that. And also we'll eliminate a third, basically a third, well, we'll eliminate any signals after the second, right? So I think the point that we're getting at is, right, we're just interested in a signal right here on this one, or this one. So let's mark this guy. All right, so we want to eliminate that one as well. And yeah, it's going to go through this here. Okay, so I'm just trying to mark, you know, the signals that we have now. I'm trying to mark what we want to get rid of. Right, so the triangles, I usually typically use triangles to identify, you know, signals that we want to get rid of. And I'll use the green and red arrows to identify where the signals should be. Right, so I think that good enough for working area right there. Okay, so let's get rid of the new lows. Right, so what we can do is we can see, you know, did a new low get made? Right, in other words, did the indicator step down? You know, did the indicator basically move? Right, so we'll just check the indicator to see if the indicator moved or stepped down. Right, so in other words, if the indicator is flat, another way of saying this is if the indicator stays flat, or if the indicator, you know, let's go over here. So looking at the current bar on the chart, so if the indicator on that bar equals the indicator value on the previous bar, right? If these two plots equal each other, then that's what we want to know. We only want a signal when the plot does not change, right? When the plot stays the same, when it equals the same value, then we want to allow a signal. But if the plot changes, so from this bar to this bar, if the plot changes value, then we want to negate the signal there, right? So we want to remove the signal here simply because the indicator plot changed values from one bar to the next bar. It changed values. So we just want to detect when the plot equals its previous value. So from one bar looking back a bar, we want to make sure that the plot equals itself. So we'll grab a actually we'll do a little shortcut. I'll make a copy of this solver here. So grab that. I'm going to make a copy, and let's rename this solver. So we want to know if the current day here. So we want to know if the current day high or low is flat. And let's see here. So the reason why I copied this solver is because input B already has our indicator input. So I just need to go to input A. I'll change that to an indicator value, and then I'll put the current day open, high, low into that. Right, there it is. And again, we're using the current low to generate long bounce signals, and we're using the current high plot to generate short bounce signals off of the high. All right, I think that should do it. Oh, well, let's take out the tick distance here. Let's take that out. And look, we already have A equals B. The outputs already are turned on for A equals B, and all the others are turned off. Because remember, we want to know when the plots equal each other. And so we need to do one more thing. Input B, we need to set the displacement to 1, right? So the displacement of 1 means, if we're looking at this bar, a displacement of 1 means we look back 1 bar. So input B is our current day indicator looking 1 bar back. And input A has a displacement of 0, so that's going to be the current day indicator, looking at the current bar. And with a displacement of 1, that means we're looking back 1 bar to find the indicator value back 1 bar. All right, so let's put that on the solver board. And let's connect it up and make sure it looks correct. And let's see, it does. So we only want to pay attention to the long outputs. So ignore the short outputs for now. Because remember, with price bouncing off the low, that's good for a long signal. So we're only interested in the long outputs here. So remember, if we pull up our rules, we go long when we're bouncing off today's previous low. So, so in this area that we're working on the chart, we're only interested in the long outputs here. So you'll notice right here, when a new low is made, the long output is missing. So you notice how the long output is missing there? And the long output is missing there. Again, a new low was made right here on this bar. And again, we're missing long outputs here. So again, we're missing long outputs. That's all we're interested in. Now, we're going to get a short output up here because the new highs are not being made. Right? If I shrink my chart up, and shrink the chart up, you can see the new highs, there's no new highs being made. So that's why we're getting all this short, that's why we're getting a short output from this solver, because no new highs are being made. But we can ignore that. So, right, so what we're interested in is we need to take this solver and this solver and join them together here. And I need to find my spot. There we go. There's the spot I was working in. Alright, so remember this solver here, it was giving us long signals when these new lows are being made. Right, so all these new lows, these new lows are being made. And so we want to get rid of these new lows. And that's what this other solver will do. Right, this other solver is missing a long output when those new lows are being made. So let's connect these together with a AND node. Alright, so there's the first solver, and if we connect the other one in, there we go. So new lows are being made and the long signal is missing on these new lows. So there we go. We got rid of some of them. Now the next thing to get rid of is we only want to keep, basically we only want to keep this first signal here, and any additional signals afterwards we want to ignore. And I'm guessing we want to ignore them unless a new low is made, right? I'm guessing that if a new low is made, then we'll pick up the next signal. So, so let's work on that. Alright, so we got rid of that, so I can get rid of some of these triangles. Okay, so we have so a signal on this triangle, we need to get rid of it because we only want to keep the first signal. And let's see, and the second, yeah, we want to get rid of this second signal here with this triangle. Let's see, but also, looks like we have a little issue right here. Looks like we have a little issue here. So it looks like what we need to do is kind of detect when price is moving far enough away from the current low. Price needs to move far enough away and then come back and approach the new low. Because you see right here, we had a new low made, and then the next bar we got a signal here, but price didn't even move away from the low. You know, this bar, price moved away and then came down. So we need like a little detection mechanism that makes sure that price is going to move far enough away from the current low. Right? So we kind of need price to move a certain distance away from the current low and then pull back to the low for a hopeful trade signal. So let's copy this. We need to get rid of this signal here. So we'll get rid of this signal by looking for this price moving away from the low, so that way we kind of get an appropriate, price movement away and then hopefully a bounce afterwards on that second approach. So let's see. We'll need a solver to check for this distance here. Alright, so we need a solver to check this clearance here, of price clearing or moving away from the current low for a certain distance. Let's see. So let's see how we can do that. Well, it's going to require a comparison solver, that's for sure. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this solver, because this solver already has our 4 tick distance, and what I'll just need to do is just change the outputs here. Yeah, I'll just need to change the outputs a little bit, and that should work for us. Yeah, that should work for us. So let's see, I might need to change the name here. Let's see, so price is, let's see, price is with in, just gonna have to abbreviate that, prices within 4 ticks of the day high low. So that's what this guy's doing. Let's make a copy of this. So this one is going to be price away. Well, actually, we'll do it like that. Price 4 ticks away. All right. Next, I need to adjust the outputs here. So basically, I'm putting this comparison solver, I'm putting the outputs here back to their default mode. Back to their default mode. So remember, A is price, right? So when A is greater than the indicators, in other words, when price moves away from our current day indicator, you know, that's what we're looking for. And that'll tell us that price has moved away, and that price is kind of setting up for a possible move back to the low and a bounce off. Let's put that solver on here. Let's take a look. Okay, now again, we're going to have to ignore the long output. All right, let's just ignore the long output because we're working in an area that's going to generate long signals. So we're going to ignore the long output. No, I'm sorry, we're going to ignore the short output, and we're only interested when we get the long output here. So if we look at these couple of spots here, right, we can see price moved away. Price moved far enough away from the current low. You know, over here, price moved far enough away, and we got a long signal. So this long signal, this is basically like our setup. That's our setup telling us that, oh look, price moved, made a new low, and now it's bouncing off of that low, and so that's our setup, and now we're waiting for price to pull back down to the low and hopefully bounce off of it again. So this is kind of a pre-setup to the bounce, right? This is a setup to the bounce. And so you'll notice that basically this long output is when price is away, but we need the long output to be when price actually does the bounce. So we need to shift this signal's forward 1 bar. You know, we need to at least shift the signal forward 1 bar to when price gets close enough to the low for that bounce. So what we can do is we can just adjust our, for price, we can adjust our look back period. We'll set it to 2. And then for our indicator, we're going to set our displacement to 1. So basically, we're looking back 1 bar for the indicator, and we're looking back a bar to get the prices. And now you can see that we're getting a long output on our circles here. Remember, I moved the circles forward 1 bar. So just to kind of iterate here. So BloodHound's giving us an output. So remember, this long output, it's actually from price moving away from the current low far enough. But we're actually getting a long output on this bar that is actually, that's actually pulling back to the low to hopefully get a bounce trade. So we kind of did that job there. So let's take a look at the AND node again. And remember, we're trying to get rid of this triangle. First and foremost. And it also helped get rid of some others. So look, it got rid of this signal here from this triangle. And it got rid of this signal here from this triangle. So it actually kind of did a lot more than I was expecting. So let's take a look through the chart. Okay, I'm going to look back to the early morning. All right, here we go. So we have a little bit of cleanup left to do here. So we're interested in this first bounce. Yeah, we're interested in that first bounce. However, we do want to get rid of this second and third bounce. So we want to get rid of the second and third bounce here. Okay, so we have a little more cleanup to do. So, all right, so let's get that moved over. All right, so a little bit of cleanup work left to do here. And let's see, what can we do? Okay, at this point, yeah, we can use a signal blocker. Yeah, we can use a signal blocker. So the signal blocker is basically, it's here to, its purpose is to allow a first signal to come through and then block any signals afterwards. So we're going to connect to the input there. Connect that in, and now we need to set how many bars do we need to block for, and I'm not sure how many, but I'll just put 50 in there for now. And then the next thing is we need to look at the resets here. Let's see what kind of reset conditions we have. And let's see, okay, if we get a input of an opposite signal, I'd say that's probably okay to reset the signal blocker, and also reset. So if we get a signal at the reset, then we'll also reset the signal blocker. So if we zoom in here, you notice the signal blocker has an input and it has a reset connector. So we're actually going to use this reset connector. So one thing I noticed is, let me shrink this back up here. So, all right, so we got our first signal here. All right, and So what can I use here? So now when a new low is made, that should turn off the signal blocker. You know, in my opinion, I guess, to me it seems to make sense that if a new low is made, then that's when we want to turn off the signal blocker, and then look for a bounce off of that new low. That's kind of what I'm guessing at. So, these instructions didn't provide a lot of detail, so I'm just going to have to fill in a little bit with some guesses here. So this should kind of illustrate, when you send your questions in, you need to provide all the detail, otherwise, it's open to interpretation. So let's just go with the fact that you get one bounce trade per new low, and then you have to wait for another new low to get another bounce trade. So whenever a new low is made, we're going to use that to reset our signal blocker. And one of these, let's see. Right, we have a solver here that detects when it's flat. And all right, so I think I can use a long short modifier. Oh no, actually I think an inverter actually will do the job. Bingo, an inverter. So you notice how we're getting a long signal whenever a new low is made. So if we look at this solver here, I was looking at the output and I noticed that the long outputs are missing. So you notice how the long outputs are missing when a new low is made, right? A new low is made. So right there, a new low is made and this long output is missing. Same over here. The long outputs are missing when a new low is made. So if I invert all of these signals, then if I invert them, then we get long signals where there are no long signals. So that's what I did. I just grabbed a inverter. So if we take a look at the inverter, so there we go. And so I can take this inverter and connect it into the reset. So on the signal blocker, if we get a reset signal, so let's zoom in here, right? So we have an inverter plugged into the reset, so the inverter is putting signals into the reset, and this reset signal is set to true, so that basically resets the signal blocker. And look, here's a little trick that I often use is, you see this output here, it says blocked output. So we can take a look at when the output is actually being blocked. And so you see how we have these long outputs that are at 0.2. So these little short long outputs, that's the blocked output, right? That is this right here, this blocked output. I just set it to 0.2. So that's the blocked output. So it's telling me the signal blocker is blocking signals. It's blocking long signals when I get this short little output. And then you'll notice here, once we get a new low, the signal blocker is no longer blocking long outputs anymore. So that's what these little short, stubby, long outputs mean. That's coming from this blocked output. I just set it to 0.2 right there. Right? So this helps me see when the signal blocker is blocking a signal and when it's not. So let's let's take a look at that, and let's scan through the chart here. So I had to go a little further down. Here we go. Yeah, so you can see, right, you can see that we are getting some, the signal blocker is blocking some outputs, but it's only blocking until a new low is being made. Right, a new low is being made. So, okay, I think that point's been made. So, let's kind of straighten this out here. And I'm going to turn the blocked output off, set that back to 0, turn it off. All right. So I think we got it. Let's see, let's delete all of my little drawings on the chart to clean it up a little bit. All right, I'm just gonna, let's see. Well, that's today. All right. Let's go back to, oh, that's right. Let's check. We'll check early in the morning here because we got some short signals. And take a look. So there we go. We got the little price pulling up. We're within 4 ticks, so we generated a short signal to get into the short, and the price bounced off. Here we go, same thing again. And price bounced off, and there's our second bounce, and then after that point, oil just tanks for the rest of the day. Okay. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at the next part of the question here. So the next part is, all right, so we want to place a stop 10 ticks beyond the previous high or low, basically making it a 14 tick stop. So, all right, with a 25 tick profit target. So, all right, so we'll put this into Raven. So Raven can't do exactly these things. So Raven, you can't set the exact location of your stop, but we can kind of get close. What we can do is at least set up this 14 tick stop and a 25 tick profit target within Raven. So let's close up BloodHound here, and let's put Raven on the chart. Here we go, we got Raven. So let's load up today's workshop file. There it is. And let's take a look at our logic board. So there is our signal. There's our logic. It looks good. I always like to take a look at the leaders and make sure everything looks like it's set up correctly. That looks good. Okay, so let's set up our entry logic. Alright, so there's our entry signal logic right there. There is no exit signal in this case. Let's see, Yeah, this doesn't say anything about using a limit or a market order, so we'll just leave it as a market orders. So use limit orders, we'll just leave that as false. That makes it a market order. And let's see, the next thing to set up is profit target of 25. And actually down here it says we got a profit target 25 for T1 and 50 ticks for T2, but Raven only has one profit target, so we only have T1, so we'll just set that up as 25. And then our stop loss is 14. We'll leave that at 14. And basically that's it. And next thing is just enable it, and let's just take a look at a quick trade here. All right, you'll see Raven's buttons flashing there, so that when those buttons are flashing, that's kind of the back testing taking place. And we need to turn the plot executions back on. There we go. And so there we go. There's a couple of early morning trades. All right, profit target, profit target. And let's see here. We did get a short right there. And profit target. There we go. All right. Well, I think that's as far as I can go with this. Actually, that's pretty much it. Pretty simple. Pretty simple description was provided. So I think that does it for that. So with that, I'll say have a great weekend, and I hope to see you guys next week. And just a reminder, always feel free to submit your questions to us by email. All right, guys, thanks. Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.